So, Volkswagen is a German car automaker that was founded in 1937. Volkswagen has factories all over the world, including Slovakia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Argentina, Czech Republic, and all of these individual factories are responsible for assembling autos for their local markets. Volkswagen holds a market share of roughly 11.4%, and in 2010, they posted record sales of 6.3 million vehicles. Just 2 years later, they increased their sales by roughly 50% to hit 9.3 million vehicles, making them the second largest manufacturer of auto in the world, and with the goal of becoming the number one by 2018. This is a title that they actually already hold in Europe. So German companies are structured by two components. They have the management team and then the supervisory council. So management is responsible for the execution of day-to-day business operations, and they're headed by the CMO, CEO, the C-suite. The C-suite is then reporting to the supervisory council, which is responsible for the employment and thus also the termination of any C-level execs. Additionally, the supervisory board is also responsible for approving large-scale strategic decisions within the company. And this keeps them more involved in the day-to-day business operations and ensures that company goals are aligned throughout both the management level as well as shareholders, CEOs, everyone's on board.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the decisions made and the responses by Volkswagen before and after the revelation of the scandal. To have a glance at the organizational effectiveness of Volkswagen. Even at the end of 2014 in Volkswagen, it was said about the impossibility to find the cause of this difference in performance testing. According to the EPA, Volkswagen had insisted for a year before the outbreak of the scandal that discrepancies were mere technical glitches. Volkswagen formally acknowledged their deception on regulators after the EPA threatened to withhold approval for the company's 2016 Volkswagen and Audi diesel models. Volkswagen announced that 11 million cars were involved in the falsified emission reports, and that over $7 billion would be used to deal with costs of correcting the programming. New CEO was appointed, while the head of brand development and the head of research and development were suspended. In addition to the internal revision, the supervisory board of Volkswagen hired American law firm Jones Day to carry out an independent external investigation on the incidents.
In the US, vehicles emission standards are extremely strict. On the other hand, we also know that Volkswagen management mantra is success must be achieved at all costs. For the company, success meant becoming the biggest car seller in the world, and to do that, it was critical to boost sales of diesel vehicles in the US market. Differently from Europe, in the US, only 0.5% are diesel vehicle, and the customer that want to invest in diesel, they usually look for specific benefits such as high mileage, performance, and also environmental responsibility. And it is an investment for them because usually in the US, these vehicles are more expensive. So in an effort to achieve set business objective influenced by a success-driven corporate culture, Volkswagen ended up cheating to meet the diesel stringent American emission standard.
Hey, this is Zidong Zhao. We'll talk about the Volkswagen emission scandals. This event was happening in the September 18th in 2015. The United States Environmental Protection Agency issued a notice of the violation of the Clean Air Act to the Volkswagen Group. So when the Volkswagen notices a problem, they find out to internationally program TIT diesel energy to activate the emission controls only during the laboratory emission testing. So as the report in the last year, the United States International Clean Air Transportation Commitment, the University of West Virginia point out something about the Volkswagen vehicle emit exclusive pollutants during the normally driving to some vehicle into immediate nitrogen for up to 40 times to the limit. So which is costs so much. And the next thing is the Cecilia Gas, Assistant Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, said it's against to the law to use the cell safe to avoid clean air standards in the car. So, which means it's a very like the threat to the public health. So it's not making any sense for use so like the Fortune 500 company to do some like real thing to something to real him or harmful to affect to the environment. So it's basically that's not very good. So for the model of the Volkswagen, so both of that, so from year to 2009 and 2015, so Audi A3 for the same period, and the Pasta from the Passat from the 2014 to the 2015, was also caused have the that initial problem at least. So that means which is from the common vehicle face of finds out the 30 $37,500 US, and the public fine expected to reach out to $80 million. So it's not big a huge return, but it's just a waste a lot of money on it. So for the U.S. government, they're not really willing to pay that such a lot of money to get less big return to harm for that environment. So that will be big things. So the U.S. government will develop a repair program. So that is what this scandal happens in the U.S. But it's on November 2, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, which calls EPA, said in the statement in some Porsche vehicles, some box. It's both from the German, from German to Porsche. The front developments instilled in the more than 11 million Volkswagen vehicle worldwide was also discovered. So which means it's just like the public common technique which happens especially in the German cars, so they cannot avoid it, but to some phase but the US government noticed how to fix that. So in the meantime, the EPA also lists the Volkswagen and the Audi, the models in the latest notice. So the first notice is only concerned Volkswagen 2.0 diesel energy, and the second was noticed Volkswagen 3.0 liter diesel energy vehicle. So so the EPA in the US will freak out this problem right now, but at least they're doing a very good job. And Porsche models are testing in the 2014 2000 to 2016 models is supposed to have the problem of the probably the energy saving or something else. So the EPA really good for this point. So that's just very good.
So, in light of the 2015 emissions scandal, one has to wonder what drove employees to actually risk their brand loyalty by employing cheat devices rather than just fixing the car itself. There's no one answer for this, but rather a myriad of decisions and actions that resulted in a very complex and oftentimes dysfunctional organizational structure. Responsible for much of the strained communication channels was Ferdinand Piëch, who was a former chief executive as well as a board member with extensive input on company decisions until 2015. A member of the founding family of Porsche, which is owned by Volkswagen, Piëch's role as both a board member and a CEO meant that he had basically no accountability to anyone and was free to reign as he pleased. Piëch undoubtedly enforced a very traditional, centralized company structure and was infamous for his abrasive and autocratic leadership styles. His reputation as a leader who would terminate employees not only for their mistakes, but also for failing to meet expectations led to major trepidation within the company. Moreover, submissive management, who were very fearful of their chief's default determination, were very quick to pass on mistakes of their employees onto others in different sectors in an effort to kind of have the issue lost in translation. When Peach resigned in 2015, the reason for his departure was cited as a lack of trust necessary for a successful corporation. Of course, Volkswagen existed long before Peach and has continued after his departure. Therefore, we must look beyond the former CEO towards others more involved in daily operations in order to evaluate the efficiency channels of communication within the company. Martin Winterkorn served as CEO at Volkswagen between 2007 and 2015. Winterkorn's resignation came within the days of the Dieselgate reveal, leaving many to speculate about his involvement and his awareness of the cheating devices. While many at Volkswagen defended Winterkorn's engineering prowess, it's evident that the CEO had little involvement in software development. When Winterkorn took over as CEO in 2007, his first move was to dominate the US market, an industry where Volkswagen held very little market share. This drive to outsell powerhouses like Toyota put incredible pressure on employees. From the get-go, Winterkorn made his name as a chief who expected very high performance, and as a result, employees who did not reach his very high expectations were eventually pushed out of the company.
Volkswagen corporate culture has definitely been affected by Peach and Winterkorn management and leadership style. 20 years of regime withstanding their leadership fostered a corporate culture resistant to open and transparent communication, but more specifically, employees were afraid of sharing information regarding poor performance because seen as unacceptable. So in such an environment, employees' only motivation lies mainly in the fear of losing their job, that together with the no-failure culture deeply rooted at the core of the company, led down to a terrible path where people's decisions started to distance from the company's best interest. Also, the highly centralized company structure conditioned middle management and lower-level employees to never contradict superiors' ideas and decisions. This resulted in a lack of honest internal communication and in an environment in which, in general, dialogue is discouraged, pushing team and employees to work independently, creating silos internally to the company, which prevent people to work to the greater good of the company itself. In this way, employees are not empowered, and as a result, there is just poor performance, inefficiency, and the rise of immoral behavior. Taking into consideration Volkswagen's imperfect incentive regime, it's therefore conceivable why employees would create a cheat device when cars were not able to pass the standard emission testing.
The US law firm Jones Day had been hired by VW to conduct an internal investigation to find the root cause of the cheating behavior. The official result declared by VW is that the cheating actions was taken by a few engineers and programmers. However, about 500,000 vehicles were affected in the US, while the total number of affected vehicles worldwide were roughly 11 million over a period of 7 years. It does not stand to reason that senior managers have been simply unaware of the wrongdoing until its revelation. Thus, VW's management in action should be responsible for the continual cheating behavior by engineers over that period. Actually, VW's senior management put pressure on the rest of the company below it to achieve goals without inquiring into the approaches that technicians would use to achieve them. This willing blindness partially led to engineers' cheating actions and protected top executives from accountability for the pressure that they put on engineers to commit wrongdoings. In addition, executives formulate both strategic objectives and timelines for new products and services with little input from others in the company. Although these objectives are presented as guidelines, management rarely treats them as negotiable. As a result, employees are forced to achieve those goals without participating in setting them. Also, VW's corporate governance was awful for its lack of diversity of expertise and opinion on the supervisory board level. 17 out of 20 members of the Council of Directors are either German or Austrian, and there is only one independent director in the board, Annika, CEO of Swedish bank SEB. Thus, the Council of Directors did a poor job on providing advice to senior management and monitoring performance of executives.
It's imperative that Volkswagen implements a system that will help connect the C-suite level executives with not only middle management, but also lower level employees in order to properly craft reasonable, measurable, and attainable goals. By decentralizing the organizational structure at Volkswagen, that is by allowing management more freedom to make decisions based on what they see and evaluate in day-to-day operations, the hierarchical nature of Volkswagen will begin to disintegrate. This has been the aim for Volkswagen's newest CEO, Matthias Müller. Müller has been pushing to increase the responsibilities of middle management and empower them to make decisions of their own that are pursuant of company goals. Moreover, Volkswagen has traditionally been dominated by chiefs with engineering backgrounds. This can lead to a groupthink bias and a disregard for viewpoints that do not confirm the chiefs what they're expecting to hear. By diversifying the management structure and the talent pool, Volkswagen opens themselves up to the opportunity for fresh perspectives that could lead not only to more innovation within the company, but also more valuable and diversified risk assessment.
In terms of how Volkswagen can implement its internal culture, they should start by fostering a culture in which failure shouldn't just be acceptable, but should even be seen as an opportunity to grow and improve. However, to do that, Volkswagen should get into the mindset of leveraging failure to stimulate a constructive debate from which people can learn from. Volkswagen engineers ended up developing software to deceive emission tests rather than implement the vehicle's engines because they were frustrated by the management style and the corporate culture, which discouraged them from rather than empower them to fix the defect. If Volkswagen management would have been more transparent and approachable, then employees would have felt more trusted and empowered in finding a way to solve a specific problem, this specific problem in this case. So to conclude, in addition to foster a culture of open communication, Volkswagen should consider enhancing a culture that promotes creative thinking as well, and that would give employees the confidence to try new and unconventional things to solve certain kind of problems.
To remedy management inaction exposed during its emission gate, VW should bring diversity of opinion and expertise to the board, increase employees' involvement in constructing and negotiating objects, and ask executives to inquire into approaches employees would use to achieve company goals. The Council of Directors consists of shareholders and worker representatives, thus increasing the weight of representatives could bring more expertise to the Council. Also, the diversity of opinion should be considered when the Council selects additional representatives. Also, the Council of Directors should construct a routine process of corporate governance and function it in a timely manner. Given objects and timelines are presented as guidelines, executives should not treat them as mandates. If technicians have difficulty in achieving goals, they need a direct and quick access to executives, negotiating solutions, or even alternatives. In addition, an object working group should be built immediately to be responsible for proceeding the negotiation and making the final decision on the checked goals. Executives protecting themselves from accountability for the pressure that they put on engineers is not tolerable. They have to understand how their employees are completing targets. They cannot imply that they only care about the results. Thus, executives need to inquire into approaches used by technicians to achieve goals and report both approaches and the progress made to the console in a timely manner.